Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Grain Blast with myself, Ryan, and of course the goddess of grain herself, Angie Setzer. It is, what day is it? Wednesday the 10th, I believe.
Don't ask me. I almost said Thursday. It
Genuinely,
is.
if I'm wrong, apologies. I believe it's Wednesday. I believe it's
No,
the
it is.
10th.
It's Wednesday all day.
I believe it's December.
It's
As
that too.
usual, Angie will be providing us with a rapid roundup of latest price infos, market moving news in agricultural markets. Usual disclaimers apply. This is live recorded. There's no editing, so apologies, forewarning for trigger words, etc. Nothing discussed on this podcast is trading or investment advice. Nothing we say is an endorsement unless we make it very, very, very clear. Angie, my love, how are you?
I'm super. I have one of those, like, do you ever wake up? I think it may be because of we have like the storm system moving in or whatever. Like, do you ever get those headaches where you almost feel like your brain's kind of a little bit slower than normal? Or
Yeah,
like that's how I feel where I'm
yeah.
just like, it's like one of them whole head. It's not a big deal. It's
It's
not
almost like,
big.
yeah, it's like a pressure head. It's like everything feels like it's just everything's getting a bit tight.
Yeah, that's what and so then I yeah, my apologies if I sound a little duller than normal today because it's about what I
Never.
feel. I'm just over here kind of we're working in low gear maybe. I'm not 100% sure how to use a vehicle analogy with this, but this is where we're at. So, yeah, happy Wednesday apparently. Um lots of things going on, like lots of little pieces of things, and I'm trying to figure out best way to kind of organize what it is that we have. First things first, let's kind of go in order to a certain extent. We did get the USDA report, well, chronologically, maybe. We got the USDA report yesterday, midday. Most everyone kind of knows what it said, but we did catch the market. I don't want to say completely off guard, but you did typically the December report's a bit of a non event and you don't really see big changes in demand. Last year, we did see a big increase in corn exports, but we were also really kind of lagging on, we were seeing big sales and we weren't really accounting for big sales in the
Right.
in the USDA numbers. Whereas we're seeing big sales and we kind of are accounting for big sales right now. You know what I mean? Like we've got these sort of record, we already had 3.1 billion bushels of export sales came back into the balance sheet. So to see the USDA be this aggressive this early and bump it up like they did yesterday, they increased exports 125 million bushels, caught some folks off guard. Now, at 3.2 billion, I think I'm the only one in the industry was that's that high on their balance sheet for export demand. And so a lot of folks are kind of like, oh, it's impossible. It's not. Like I've done the math. It's possible. You're going to really have to see consistent shipments like we have been, where it's 1.5 million metric tons, give or take a week, with an occasional spike here or there of bigger shipments. And the way that the cash market itself is setting up, it looks like that's what we're going to continue to see, on the corn side of things. And so I don't have any qualms with the USDA's update from yesterday on that side. There is some argument, of course, that they're going to have to lower feed and residual going forward, which that really is something that they'll keep probably for after the quarterly stocks data comes out. And it may even be after one or two, like it might not be January. They might wait until after the March quarterly stocks data comes out to update in April or something like that, if they feel that they need to. Globally on corn, it came in lower. Corn carryout came in a little bit lower than what folks were expecting. You did see the USDA make an adjustment lower to the Ukraine corn crop. They reduced production and reduced export sales or exports,
Is
projected
this
exports.
related to what we were speaking about yesterday, where just the dreadful conditions over there?
Yeah, yeah, it's not the same. Like there are some people out there that are arguing that, oh, this isn't a big deal. Like they've been waiting and they'll be able to, and yada yada yada. They've done this before, and maybe they have, but it's kind of the conditions that corn is sitting in right now. Like you can wait for corn to dry in the field if it's cold, it freezes, it's hanging out there. You know what I mean, and doing all right. If you're running above average, like if you're just above freezing into the 40s and damp like they have been, you're causing more damage the longer that grain sits in the field. And so we have to be really careful and not to assume that, oh, it all is well. And I'm not saying that it's a complete zeroed out loss or anything like that. But if you're already dealing with mold and toxin issues, which is what the reports are that they're struggling with, unless you're below freezing consistently, and really kind of seeing that quality maintain itself because it's frozen, and you have some continued issues, and,
Right.
and that's sort of what we're seeing. And the USDA is accounting for that. And also, like I've talked about before, their energy infrastructure, their rail infrastructure, like the ability to move grain from where it is to where it can be dried, the ability to dry the grain, the ability to store it and keep airflow on it without that being disrupted. Like, you're struggling to keep lights on and heat on in people's homes. Like, agriculture is important, but it's still second
Yeah.
in line.
Right. Quite.
So, that'll be interesting to see. That's kind of the corn focus.
Yeah.
Soybean and wheat, they pretty much phoned in the domestic numbers, no changes. Soybeans, traders had anticipated an increase in carryout ever so slightly. USDA said, no, we're just going to leave it as is. On wheat, traders were expecting a decrease in carryout because we have seen pretty decent export figures, so far through the first half of the marketing year. Though we didn't see it, the USDA doesn't at this point see that sort of continuation of strong demand as we move ahead, mostly because if you look at their global numbers, they just listen to every private expert out there, private analyst out there that was like, yeah, it's a super mega huge record. Like you saw the bump, Ukraine's production up, Argentina's production up, Australia's production up, Canada's production up. Like, basically, we're looking at super mega world record wheat production, and not as much demand, obviously. Like, you can't, like, the thing that just blows my mind is, like, we're talking about some of these places just blowing previous records out of the water, by significant amounts. And
Yeah.
so if true, which I struggle with on some of these, it's just,
Everyone, I know Angie very well. This is her being very diplomatic when she
I
says
am being diplomatic. And I have to be, because I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to act like I completely know, boots on the ground.
suspect. You're suspect.
Yeah, like, I'm suspect. As the kids would say, I'm super sus. No, I bet they don't say super though. But like, I'm just looking at it kind of like, okay, we had some pretty major production issues. We had, like, Ukraine. Like, if you look back at the spring, there were significant conversations about Ukraine's wheat area being down as much as 25% versus a year ago. But if you look at their overall production, it hasn't dropped. Like, private estimates are still growing. Like, but their cash market doesn't show it. Like, the same sort of thing in Russia. Like,
Yeah.
we aren't looking at a cash market, or at least a flow of grain that would point towards 87.5 million metric tons of production or whatever. We didn't
Right.
see the weather that would have provided that type of production either. And so, yeah, I struggle with some of these numbers. Like, just because they're on the balance sheet doesn't mean they're in the bin.
Yes.
But I also know that the road to the poorhouse is paved with people arguing with the USDA. So that ain't me, dog. I'm just going to sit here and say, yeah, let's just touch cash and see if it reflects it. But that's part of why you have the market down. Now, after the close, one of the bigger things that I saw was we got an updated CFTC report, commitment of traders number, through the first week of November there. The one thing that caught my attention is that you saw the spec long in soybeans was at like 175,000. I'm rounding up, I think, contracts. It was like 173 something. Traditionally, you don't, like, the record long in soybeans, I think, was 250 some thousand contracts. And that was like 2012. I'm going off from memory, so please don't, hit me if I'm wrong.
Please don't write in.
Yeah, please don't write to my boss, because she's mean. Like, one of those things where once you get up that high, you tend to struggle to get more people to come in.
Yeah, right.
Like, what's most interesting to me, though, is that if you look at the chart and you look at what was taking place, like, that basically that week is where we kind of stall. Like, the following week, midway through, that was when we surged up and traded up to like 1169. And then ever since, we've just basically been trading lower. But part of that reason is because round about that time, too, it kind of sunk in here that, hold on, wait a minute, we're probably way longer than we thought we were, speculatively speaking. Like, we're probably running out of buyers. China's obviously not going to come in and take all 440 million. The EUDR decision came out around that same time. Like, you had several different things kind of, they all piled up. And so you saw soybeans fall off, so it'll be interesting to me to just see how much buying took place throughout the month of November that was commercial. That would kind of indicate, of course, the overall export sales, or at least demand picture that we have.
Yeah.
As we get that in. And then it'll be interesting to see if the speculative buying slowed or stopped, as we worked our way through. So, like, part of the reason that I'm really, hopeful, and I think they released a sped up schedule. So they are going to get some more of that data out, the commitment traders data, I guess, quicker. But that's just important. Just kind of
No, of
see where
course.
we are. I've also been pushing really hard to see if we can get a sped up schedule for the export sales numbers, because this is just stupid at this point. Like, the administration is not helping its cause by not releasing them. Like, all it's doing is allowing for speculation. We have an obvious flaw in the flash sales system, where we're not getting all of the China purchases every day. Like, basically, privately, everyone is estimating China has bought over 60% of the 12 million metric ton they are supposed to, which feasibly means that by the end of the year, still, even though the administration is kind of who's on first with this, like, they could still meet the purchase obligations, and you have all of these different things. And so really we should be releasing these export sales and yada yada. But fast forward to today, we're getting headlines now. It looks like the peace plan. We'll see what happens. It looks like today is going to be a big day. Potentially, Zelensky said that they met, they had their meeting, they have their 20-step plan. They're working on both the reconstruction and all of that while they're working on the peace plan. It sounds like we're as close to an end as we may be, but
Well,
I guess we'll see.
yeah,
Okay.
like you, I'm struggling to put this in a kind of a politically correct and also trying to stay optimistic because obviously no one, well,
Yeah,
we certainly don't want the war to carry on. We certainly want the war to end.
yeah.
I think strategic, me being diplomatic now, it feels like we're the closest we've been. But unfortunately, that doesn't mean it's a done deal.
Yes, exactly.
Is that
Like,
a fair way to explain it, do you think?
I think 100%. I think that is. I think, like, I don't know. I guess you could see Zelensky, because they did talk yesterday about elections in 30 to 60 days. Like, there's several different things that have kind of that maybe felt like a red line, for lack of a better term, here over the last couple of negotiation points are kind of like, okay, Ukraine's willing, but I don't know if they give up the land that they fought so hard to keep. Like, I struggle to see how they give up the land. And I struggle to see how Europe allows them to do it, because I think it sets a poor precedent. But I'm obviously just a grain trader. I'm not a geopolitical expert by any means. And so I guess we'll see, what all, because I don't think Putin's going to allow for anything less than that at this point. Just my thoughts. I don't know
No, I
on
make you
yours.
right. No, I make you exactly right. As you
And so that's why we're a little under pressure, corn and wheat. But, we've talked about a million times, the market is already pricing in somewhat regular grain flow out of Ukraine and Russia. The risk isn't that we have regular grain flow. Like, people act like this is bearish, or, and initially sentiment might be or whatever, but we're not acting like we have disrupted grain flow. It's going to take years, or at the very least, an additional crop cycle before you're able to rebuild infrastructure and flow. Now, could we see, obviously peace will bring stability, and you won't have the concerns over the Black Sea disruption on shipments and some of these other things. But yeah, I think it feels like we are the closest that we have been. And I think we have to. I think Zelensky doesn't have a choice. I think he has to basically,
yeah.
Kind of do everything within the requirements or what is being asked of them that Europe says, yeah, that's okay. I don't know. I'm not on the inner workings of it. It's a lot of pieces that are moving, but that's why you're seeing grains, wheat's under pressure in particular, is that the thought is always, okay, well, peace is
Yeah.
bearish wheat because of but we're not, like, Russia is still expected to move 44 million metric ton of wheat, bro. Like, no one's thinking that that's disrupted at this point. The risk
Right.
is that it is. And so we'll see. Beyond that, that's about it. Like, we got China, they're going to be auctioning off. There are some interesting things in China, honestly. That's it. But so I'll see this really quickly. China is in the process. It looks like kind of cracking down a bit harder on some of their phytosanitary and GMO certificate rules into their northern ports. This would impact specifically Brazilian and Argentine imports. It would likely
Right.
slow down their offloading and, just kind of create more headaches for the buyer. What the thought process in this is that, their desire to do this, or the work to do this, is really going to help to push private crushers. Like, there's a thought, oh, well, this is going to slow down private crush. But to me, I think this is just going to push private crushers to start buying the auction bushels, because basically right now, China is looking at beginning to auction off around 300 to 500,000 metric ton a week. They're going to sell around 4 million metric ton is the rumor of reserve bushels. These are 22, 23 crop years, so they do need to be circulated out into the countryside. And so I think what you're seeing is almost an artificial or a government move to make the cheaper, I'm using air quotes, you just can't see them, South American beans, somewhat more expensive from a logistical sort of standpoint in order to encourage the usage of the domestic bushels or the government reserve bushels so they can buy the U.S. bushels to refill the reserves. Bingo, bango.
Bingo, bango, bongo.
Like that's where we're at. So we'll see how that all plays out. But right now, to me, honestly, I would struggle to we have this gap below the chart in soybeans, but I struggle to see us covering it. I thought maybe yesterday, the day before, maybe that was in the cards.
But they have gaps have a magical power though.
No, they do.
They have a
Especially,
magical magnetic power.
this big fat one just chilling down there at 10.63.
The thing is though, you just know there's a shit ton of traders looking at that going, it's gonna get filled eventually.
Well, and especially once we kind of confirmed the Head and Shoulders, and I'm not a tech if people are like, look at the Head and Shoulders, and I'm like, that's not. Is this the Rorschach test? Is that how you say that? The
Rorschach,
yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I see my mom telling me this.
Yeah, right.
I don't.
It's like when people are making shapes out of clouds. It's like, you sure?
I think that one's an elephant. But you saw that sort of confirmation, and yeah, everyone is really, really watching that gap, and I would feel a hell of a lot better. Like, let's just go.
The OCD's ticking over.
Yeah, just get down there, cover it. It's. I told someone yesterday, it's 25 cents or so lower than the market, which sounds scary, but the quicker we get it done, the better we are.
Yeah. Gap and go.
Yeah, it does feel like we're running out of sellers to a certain extent, just simply because it's like, okay, yeah, we did recognize that we were kind of the feel that speculators were overly long in the market once we kind of plateaued.
Yeah.
It was accurate. And so now the question is, how much have they liquidated since, now that we're 70 cents off the high?
Right.
And so, yeah, we'll see where we head. Corn, though, one thing that was interesting to me is the speculators were still short the first part of November. And so I don't know, we really haven't seen the market change too awful much since then. We did get a little bit of a pop here a week or so ago, but it doesn't look like you've seen really heavy speculative selling or buying, excuse me. And so if they decide that corn's the next thing they want to play with, if China comes in or something like that, it could get real interesting real quick. But beyond that, we'll see. It's Wednesday all day.
Yeah, all day, and Fed Day tonight. So we'll see what later on tonight for us. But yeah, absolutely. But Angie, thank you so much as always. Listeners, thank you so much as always for tuning in. We hope we've added some value and maybe put a smile on your face as well. Whatever you're doing, as usual, please stay safe, look after yourselves, keep it tight, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Much love.
Have a good